Welcome to Talking Jazz, a program featuring conversations, stories, insights, and guided listening with today's jazz creators, hosted by pianist, composer, author, and educator Monika Herzig. My guest today is Reut Regev, trombonist extraordinaire. She came from Israel several years ago, and she is one of my Sheroes with my group, and we've been collaborating for 6 years now and done quite a few adventures together. Sometimes I put her on the spot when we have a workshop or something to talk about how she became a trombonist and how she became to do what she do. And she calls herself the accidental trombonist. And Reut, give us just a little synopsis about your accidental trombonist journey.
I got this title of the accidental trombonist from an article from some paper, probably in Germany. That's where they like me. So my story goes something like that. When I was 5, my mom said, "Hey, do you want to do keyboard, like piano keyboard?" I said, "Okay." And then I did that for a few years. And then I was about 11 or so, and my mom said, "Do you want to play trumpet like your friend Rona?" And I said, "Sure." Generally, because that's what I would say. That's my like default answer. So we went to the conservatory and we said I wanted to play trumpet. But they said, "Well, it's going to be really difficult for you to play trumpet because you already play the piano. Did you know the notes are different? And besides, your lips are way too big. You'll never be able to play it." So they gave me a choice between trombone and French horn. I went to meet both teachers, and the French horn teacher was an older orchestral dude, and he showed me the instrument and played some notes for me, and that was nice. And then the trombone teacher was a young girl, kind of just in college, I think, and she's like, "Look, the trombone can laugh, wee wee wee." And so yeah, I went for the trombone, and I kind of continued with that. I'm also an accidental jazz trombonist because I followed another friend into the jazz program. The story keeps going, still here.
Well, no, I think it's a great story because, I know you're a fellow Gemini and we tend to like go for it, just say, yes, let's do it. And let's try it out. What the heck, and we'll figure it out from there. It seems to be a general tendency of that side.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, and I just loved what you said about having the young girl as the teacher, which made you decide to do it because, you saw somebody like you who could do that. And that's part of our concept and part of our group, what we're trying to achieve, to showcase how things could look like different and to change those perceptions. So that was a really cool confirmation that you just had. How that can influence, your choices if you see a role model or see somebody doing that.
Sure, I guess I could really much more easily imagine myself in her position than in the old dude's position.
Right, exactly. That's really cool. Well, and then, you became the accidental trombonist in the military, and
Well,
should we talk about your gun story too?
well, I really didn't want to go to the army very much. I kind of already had gigs, and I didn't want to be there. But to get out, you had to say you were crazy, and I've never really been a very good liar, so I didn't choose that option. So I went ahead and I did a tryout for the army band, and I did get accepted, which was a great honor. And but you still have to do basic training. So basic training, luckily for me, it was a very peaceful time in Israel. Luckily, they did, I think it was like a 10-day basic training, something really really short. And then we had just one time that we were supposed to shoot at a target. So we had 10 bullets to shoot, and I did it, but I cried. It was really scary for me. And the other thing is that I lost my machine gun. I mean, we just had to carry it everywhere. I mean, that's a waste of our energy. So we had to carry it everywhere, and we had to carry it to the dining room, and I just left it behind. So I guess my subconscious was trying to give me a message.
To get rid of the scary thing. I hear you. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine. But you had the training, and then obviously your trombone chops are amazing from playing all kinds of music at this really high level. And so by the time I met you, you were living in New Jersey with your drummer husband, Igal Foni, and your daughter. And so when I put the group together, the concept was, well, bring some music to the table if you have some. So I called you out of the blue. You had no idea who this person was, and asked you to come to the studio, and you did bring a tune along last minute. And it turned out, so tell us a little bit about the tune. Well, we'll listen to it in a minute, but what's the background story here?
Well, I was just like, really? She wants a tune of mine? That's kind of dangerous, but okay. I mean, that's an opportunity. So I composed it for the session, and I composed it for the instrumentation and it was the first time I had the opportunity to play with alto flute. I also very rarely play with piano. Should be kind of normal, but I don't do it that often.
Right. I noticed that.
So I really had that sound in mind when I worked on the composition. I think I did it in a way that I usually work, which is, I do it different ways, but that one, I kind of recorded something on the trombone, then tried different things on top of it. So it was kind of intuitive composing, mostly from the trombone perspective. Though I think maybe I did a little bit of piano too when I was trying to think about, oh my goodness, what will I give a piano player? What can a piano player do? And then after the composition, which is usually the case for me, is when I gave it the title, a total non-impossibility. Yeah, because it's not impossible, totally not impossible.
So the tune is a really, really cool composition that combines these ostinatos. And it was the first time you started these trading things with trombone and flute. And, another thing, I don't think you and Jamie had played together, right?
No, we haven't.
So that was an experiment. And here's another accidental part that worked out really well for us, this combination of flute and trombone, which usually people think, what? And that's as far away as you can get. In our group, worked out really well. It's exactly the right thing. So let's listen to the total non-impossibility titled Last Minute, because it came together, it worked out great, and it's on our first recording, The Whole World in Her Hands. And check out the trading between the flute and the trombone, and also the approach to open improvisation in there, and soloing over an ostinato, and we'll talk about it more in a second. So here it is. Isn't that a cool tune?
Oh yeah.
I just so love to play on it. And I know I have not heard any of your other things with piano, so I'm glad to be the accidental pianist. So let's talk about the other collaboration that we did. So 2 years later, we recorded another album in 2018, Sheroes, which got a lot of great accolades. And you put one on there. It's actually the closer of the album called I'm a Superstar. And I remember when you wrote it in our Airbnb in Cleveland in the room and put it together. So talk a little bit about your way of composing and how you approach that.
So I think at that time, I was kind of really, it was a tricky time. Can I really keep doing this thing, this music thing? Like constant struggle, have no money. What's in my future? So just a lot of wondering, because that, comes for a moment, goes the next moment, and I'm on the stage and I know exactly why I'm doing this. And then I'm paying my bills and I have no idea why I'm doing this. And also a time of self-search. So kind of from there, and also from there came the concept of affirmations and what you tell yourself and how much that influences how you think and therefore how you behave. So I'm a Superstar has in it a few different aspects which are not as much featured in other pieces that I wrote. One, it's really very kind of oriental. So it has very kind of the,
Right.
I don't remember what this mode is called, but like the flat nine. And it really sounds like it's, either Jewish or Arab or Balkanic. Rhythmically, I was kind of going for a hip hop here. So in my mind, it's a kind of a hip hop song. Also not only the rhythm, also kind of the call and response. And I was, really listening to different hip hop stuff and seeing how I could translate that to my writing. And I was like, yeah, that's totally it. Like I play that, they answer, I play that, yeah, that's the. But it's very simplistic view. But I think it got something, just a little of the essence of the hip hop. But then of course it had to be a little bit weird because that's naturally what comes out if I try to compose. So also very importantly, all that it was really in the first rehearsal when I brought it in was a couple of ideas written on little pieces of paper, probably little cut pieces of paper that were not, I'm not even sure if there was music sheet paper or not. But so I just put that in front of you girls and I said, well, let's try it. Well, it goes like that. And I had to, of course, since it was written very unclearly, I had to give a lot of extra instructions about how it goes and how one thing develops into another and how the ideas fit together. And then I think in the second rehearsal, I added another part. And then the third rehearsal, I added another part because every time I listened back to how it was coming alive and it gave me more ideas. Yeah.
So, and that's the cool thing about it, that your composing is in segments and in melodic patterns. Usually writers will give you like a lead sheet and there's the melody and the harmonic framework and you just do the jazz approach, you play the head and then take solos over it. But your approach is very different. It's more this 21st century composing of here's little patterns and let's put the pieces of the puzzle together. And especially I want to point out, at the intro, so when the bass and piano and drums play, we don't play a hip hop groove or any groove, but we had the little sheet of paper rhythms and it took us a minute to figure out even how they fit together. What does this part have to do with me and how do I fit in? So it's really cool. So you have these planes playing and then you put something on top and you take it out and the focus is not on playing your part but how the whole thing fits together. So the rock part and the hip hop part is really, really cool. And then of course at the end we break out in the salsa pattern before we have the mic drop of confirmation and I'm a superstar. So what came out of your doubts of what am I doing? Where is this going? It became for all of us this tune of, yes, we should do what we dream about and what we want to do, and pursue our goals. And we have every right to do that. And let's get this affirmation for all of us to say, we are good enough, we are kind, we are all these things, and let's go and pursue our dreams. So here's I'm a Superstar from the 2018 album Sheroes. Enjoy.
good person.
I am beautiful.
I am kind.
I'm funny.
I'm a good person.
I am beautiful.
I'm kind.
I am funny.
I am a superstar.
How fun. I'm a superstar. We are superstars and we should believe in it. And that's the attitude to be able to pursue and move forward. So on our newest album that just came out, that we were in the middle of a release tour for, when we had to turn around and go back home and have been holed up since then, you also had a tune. And of course, this newest album, the theme was a lot about healing and overcoming. And so when we look for a song, I kind of picked and and asked for Up in the Sky, because you have a very personal story behind that. So why don't you give us a few insights first on that, and then we'll talk a little bit about the music.
About the story behind the music. So I'll just say, so first I basically, this was pretty much thoroughly composed. It took me a while. It was a process of months. Like I did a little part here and then I came back to it a long time after and I added another part and all of that. And then at the end I was just, I think that on top of that part, I really hear some vocal. I think maybe I can find some text. I'm started looking at some poetry, some books of poetry that we have, some friends that write poetry. So I just kept on looking for something that will strike me as the right thing to go on top of that part. And I was just not successful. So I said, well, you know what? Let me just try something myself. I'll just try to make it up and see if I like it. And then I was playing the kind of crutch tracks that I did of the composition in my ear, and singing on top of it. The words that came out were about my brother that died when we were both children. He was 6 and I was 5. And he died suddenly in a car accident. And I was pretty sure that I had, plenty of issues in my current life and that I kind of dealt with that and I was fine as far as that. Like I was over that. Of course, I'll always miss him and wonder. But so I was really surprised that this is what crept out of my subconscious, like this issue of exactly how I felt when I was 5 and I lost my big brother. It's really written from my point of view then, just like my 5-year-old self appeared.
That's really fascinating. And that's part of the theme too, that for us music or for everybody, music is a language that can go beyond words too. And a lot of the things we can express in performing and in pieces that just by talking about it wouldn't be the same. So we are an instrumental group, but you still, there's nothing wrong with singing and using vocals to express as part of that broader picture. Yes, but it's not easy, isn't it?
Something about vocals, you have to be, they are just, it changes everything. Even when you play instrumental music, the few words that you say in between and the name of your piece changes entirely how people listen to it and what they remember from it, what they take home from the concert, and therefore it has to be used very carefully. And also that's why, so my other piece, I Am a Superstar, was maybe the first one ever that I used some words in, because I was also like strictly instrumental composer. But there we had just a few words at the end, but just because it was just a few words, it just makes them so strong.
Right. Yeah, you're right. It's a very tricky balance. The moment you put words in, we're so word-oriented society, then that's what we use for the picture, and we go away from the sounds, and it helps us to focus on something which it should or it shouldn't. So, and it was an interesting process for us to put that together with the vocals, because the vocals, it's not supposed to be something that's, beautiful, perfectly trained vocal cords kind of singing, but it's part of the expression.
Exactly. It's just a color. It's just an additional color in the big scheme of things. It's not like a vocals and something in the back. Just the vocals are just a little extra decoration.
And it worked with your, creating layers. So now we have the layers of here's the vocals, and then of course the different patterns for the instruments. And then the main part of it is a communal improvisation, just starting from repeated notes, da, 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 and then everybody building from there and telling a story. You always told us, tell a story, make it a story.
Yeah, I always say, let's go on a trip, right?
Let's go on a trip. Let's go on an adventure. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we went on this trip in the studio, and I really like the version that the way it came out. We really came up with a trip. It naturally came back together and found its end. So let's have a listen. Up in the Sky from the 2020 recording, Eternal Dance, and listen for that communal improvisation. It's pretty fascinating.
Up in heaven, all the candy they want. Play and play and play and
That is such a deep piece, you know. It's very special. When we put it on the album, we had to find a good spot because, you know, your approach to think is different, but it's part of our voices. So when you program something, you have to find a way to put it in so it all makes sense together. So let's talk about your group. You know, you said you're super popular in Germany, which I totally get because, you know, there's something about the way jazz is viewed in Germany as this art form and as a really way of pure expression. And that's a different philosophy than here. Here it's part, and it came out of entertainment, you know, it was part of let's play for dances, for hangouts, and for parties. It's party music. It was pop music. And by the time it got to Europe, it was art music, something where you sit down and you express yourself. And your art time is a super expressive groups. You know, it fits right into that philosophy. So tell us a little bit about that group.
I've had this group starting around 2009. It is a kind of a collaboration with my husband, Yigal Foni, drummer. And we started a few years before. We had all different configurations. Basically, I was kind of a New York trombonist, playing different kind of stuff, doing some creative music, some salsa, klezmer. And I was just like, well, I gotta put my own voice out there. I have to do it. It's very expensive, but you just gotta do it. You have to. So I don't know. We put together whatever we could, and I haven't really composed much before that first recording, so I had trouble starting because I was an improviser, and the thing about improvising is that once you do it, you can't undo it. So it doesn't really matter if you like it or not, but you can't be like, you can't throw it out. You played it, people heard it. You can't crumble the paper and decide to start from scratch. And you have that option with composing, which makes it much harder for people who like to judge themselves harshly. So anyway, but by the way, Igal then told me, you know, it's not about the composition. It is about the performance. You could take the simplest, you know, most banal composition and you can make a beautiful artwork out of it. Just taking the weight of the importance of the composition, that really helped me. And so I just closed myself in my room and I just put some stuff together and worked on it and worked on it and worked on it. And then we had so many rehearsals. We went to the studio one day and we made our first record with Brad Jones on bass and David Phelps on guitar. And back then I was not a mother. I did not really have another job besides being a musician. And I put all my time into promoting that record. I sent it to so many magazines, so many booking agents, so many festivals. Just like that was my day job. I did that 10 hours a day. I sent it to places. Nothing really came back. I mean, we had some articles. Some people liked it. And then this one record label was willing to put it out. A really nice one, Ropadope. But they were just like, yeah, we'll put it out digitally, and which really meant that they were our partners, but financially it didn't mean anything. And then so many booking agents, nobody really wanted anything to do with us, but this one agent said, well, yeah, maybe we can start working. We can book a tour for a year and a half from now. I think it was, or 2 years and a half. It was something that back then seemed like it would never happen. By now, if somebody tells me, let me book you a tour for 2 years and a half from now, I'll be like, oh, great. But then it's like 2.5 years. It just sounded like it will never happen. But anyway, he agreed that I'll put his name on my website, which was just like a black page with my picture. And it was a very simple website. I did it myself. I still do it myself, but it's easier today. And then the Berlin Jazz Festival, it was then that year, 2009, it was booked by a great trombonist who was probably somehow like out there searching for new creative trombonists. And I don't know how he found me, but the booking agent did not send him anything. Nobody sent him anything. I didn't dare to reach to the Berlin Jazz Festival. I tried for smaller things, but they invited us to play at the festival. And then the fact that they invited us, then other festivals were like, oh, the Berlin Jazz Festival. Yeah, I guess we can also give them a gig. And that was our first tour. And in that tour, we also, since we had the Berlin Jazz Festival and one of our favorite guitarists lived in Berlin, so we thought, oh, this could be our opportunity to connect with Jean-Paul Bourrelli. Italy. And so for that show, we had him as a special guest, and it was a very good experience. And we connected musically as we expected that we will. And we are very happy to have him on our second and our third release. We have been kind of touring on and off, and then Liana joined us when she was born 8 years ago. And yeah, that's it.
It's a really, really cool group. Very avant-garde German preferences.
Yeah, I think we're kind of avant-garde with funk and jazz and world music influences. But I've heard, people say all kind of people come from their own perspective, and some people say, well, that's not even a jazz record.
Well, I mean, that's debatable. That's the old, what is jazz exactly? And, it's more philosophy on how you approach music. So, I mean, it's definitely jazz. but there's also a visual aspect to you guys. I think that's kind of attractive because you're very outgoing when you play, and there's something to focus on when you sit in the audience, and it's cool to watch the interplay and seeing people really get into the music. And I think that's a huge attraction to go really for that moment and interact and find a new space and an avenue and a new story to tell.
Yeah.
So the one that we're gonna listen to is Hard to Let Go, and you said that's a lullaby. Did you write that for Liana?
Well, I wrote that many years ago before Liana. I had my first commission by the Festival of New Trumpet Music, which they kind of expanded to trombone that year, and they invited me to write a composition for a brass ensemble. So originally it was a tuba solo with percussion underneath. And then we decided when Liana was born, she was a kind of a carrier baby. She would only sleep either in somebody's lap or in a baby carrier. Or even at night, she was kind of a baby you had to be connected to for her to stay asleep. So she loved it when I practiced. That immediately put her to sleep. The crazier and the louder, the faster she fell asleep.
Oh, cool.
So I did play. That was one of the things that I certainly did play for her as she was sitting on my back as a lullaby. And the tune does, I think, really kind of play a falling asleep kind of story.
Well, I mean, let's find out. Let's have a listen. So let's see who falls asleep while you listen to it. Give us feedback afterwards. But so here's Hard to Let Go. This is from Reut Regev's Our Time. It's one of the Enja releases, and find it on Spotify and everywhere else. We'll spell it out, and we'll give it a listen. Okay, so honestly, who fell asleep on listening to Hard to Let Go? It's Reut's music is not music to fall asleep to, and I really recommend everybody, if you ever have a chance to go watch her group, watch some videos. It's fascinating. It's really cool. Thank you for listening to Talking Jazz with Monika Herzig. Our guest today was Reut Regev, and you heard music from The Whole World in Her Hands, Sheroes, Eternal Dance, and Reut's release, Keep Winning.